lot of soul.
This is Bass Talk Live. Your host, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrack. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Lose, Strike King Lures, Bass Cat Boats, Ducket Fishing, Spro, AFCO, Big Bite Baits, Sunline, and TH Marine. BTL coming at you. Good Wednesday, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, a little late today.
Noon.
It's lunch with BTL across the nation.
We got new headsets.
Yeah, you okay with that?
I got like a twisty cord now. Look at that. It's like a
Don't mess with
it's
it.
like a kill switch cord.
Don't mess with it, dude.
Oh, it's very crisp and clear.
Yeah.
It's new. I got two things right off the bat.
All right.
Right before we go live, you always put your headsets on and then you yell, "You're hot!"
Yeah.
at the top of your lungs. Does that mean that means my mic is on?
Yes.
Okay, you've done that for like the past 2 months now.
And you didn't
used to
realize
never
that?
Say that, and I assume that's what it meant. But like it does, you don't turn it on until after you yell that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
You do realize how loud you yell that. Like you yell it, like at the top of your
I'm
lungs.
a loud person.
Second of all,
I'm very loud.
We got Ken Duke on today, manager of Fishing Tackle Retailer, who has
Yes.
all sorts of good stuff. But Bassmaster has been putting out virtual ICAST, all the new toys and stuff that they'll see in 2021. But at the bottom, there's always a foreign individual, usually on Facebook, who comments, and they're always making anywhere between $8,000 and $20,000 a month working from home, doing very simple jobs.
I've noticed that.
Like Zubair Dukai, who's a very attractive young lady in her early 20s, who says she's making an extra $15,000 a month doing very simple jobs online from home. And the previous month, she made $14,839 in her spare time working 2 hours a day from her laptop.
Are you interested?
Well, that's what I'm saying here. I mean, it's been on there. I've never actually gone to these websites, but am I working too hard for the pennies that BTL brings in when I could just go to these websites at the bottom of Bassmaster that these people post and make $15,000 to $30,000 a month in 2 days during the week?
Why don't you look into that? I'm curious to see what it's all about.
Well, this is a functioning computer right now, and I'm always scared to click on the,
I don't want you-
website that they offer.
Exactly.
I mean, it
Do
just
that
says,
on your own equipment.
trust me, just follow the details on this site.
I'm sure it's some kind of bot from Lithuania or something like that.
All right, that was the only
How
two
much?
things.
How much? 20,000?
The last month, she's claiming, Zubair Duki,
Yeah.
that she made $14,839 by doing this online in my spare time for only 2 hours a day using my laptop.
Huh.
It's easy. And the regular earnings are awesome. And you just get your hands on this job and start earning.
Have you gotten the email from Kenya?
I've not gotten the prince that needs the money email yet.
You've
but
never
I don't
received
know.
that one.
It just cracks me up that I mean, it's like every Bassmaster article, there's someone who's just earning an astronomical amount of money working 2 hours a day online.
Well, maybe they think that people in the bass fishing world and professional anglers need a little bit of extra income.
You know what you could buy with that extra income now?
What's that?
The BFE is now live on
How about that?
bigbitebaits.com.
And I have received emails of screenshots of people ordering online on the Big Baits,
Big Bite Baits.
Big Bite Baits website, screenshots at like 12:30 in the morning.
They're sitting there. I had one of the guys set his alarm for 11:58 so he could order at 12:01. That's cool.
How cool is that, man?
It's been a long process from the time I remember it was like, hey, we kind of want to incorporate BTL and we want to bring in Brad Hallman to kind of design it. He's won 2 tour events. He's a big time flipper.
There it is. Right there,
and then if you followed it on Brad and the BTL YouTube channel and all the shows, we incorporated the fed. So it's crazy that now you could just go order it. There it is.
There it is.
Something
right
that didn't
there.
exist. So really proud of it. Keep talking about it. Keep bringing it up. Obviously, we want people to buy it.
Yeah.
But
one slight disappointment. Just
super
one slight.
proud of that.
Just one slight disappointment.
The BTL color isn't ready yet.
That is correct.
It's a cool color.
Will be soon, though.
Will be soon. But the 9 colors, I think they said they will start shipping on the 7th of July. Start shipping on the 7th, but you can get your order in for the BFEs.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Very
So,
cool
I mean,
stuff.
how long was that? It was a year-long process. By the time the idea was developed until
Yeah.
debate with all the different prototypes and the drawings and stuff, you can see how it went down. So
Yeah.
bigbitebaits.com, it's like the first thing there, and you can order a few packs. $3.99 a pack, plus you got to pay shipping. But $3.99 a pack, you get 6 baits in it. So
Hey,
give
do
it a
you
shot.
know?
Let us
Do you
what
know
think.
how soon on the BTL color?
Do not. But
You
we
think you
will
might
get
be able to
BTL
find-
colors in studio, and then we'll be able to give away some packs of the BTL colors.
It's green and black with a little bit of flake in there.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
Chartreuse.
We had a concept of it. It's if you look at the BTL logo and colors. I mean, you're all over the board on that, but it's a general. I know it's got some chartreuse in it, some black,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of flake. So
We'll give some of that away.
Yep.
Dude, the reason we're doing a lunchtime show is because this morning I had the ultrasound, which is really weird. Have you ever had an ultrasound?
no, we talked about it's where they put the gel. What was it on your heart?
Heart, and then what's the artery in your neck?
Carotid.
Yeah. Yeah. They
Just
did
to
that
make sure
too.
everything's good.
Yeah, it's just a preventative maintenance kind of thing.
You good?
I don't know. She wasn't too alarmed by what she saw, but what's funny is you rolled over on your side and she's rubbing that thing with the jelly on it. And
That didn't sound right.
And you look up at the screen and you see your heart beating. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of cool to see that. And then she has this little volume knob that you can actually hear the heartbeat. And I guess based upon how the blood's flowing through and even on the artery, you could hear it. So based upon the sound and what they see, they can say, yeah, you're doing good. You're all right. No problem. But yeah, it took like 30 minutes.
You're in and out.
In and out. In and out. Had a mask on, had to wear a mask. Mm-hmm. Are you wearing a mask sometimes?
When required, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They had a big meeting here in Norman, whether or not they were going to mandate everybody in Norman had to wear a mask at all times. So, it is what it is. We got to do what we got to do and go from there. But hopefully I'm okay. Hopefully things will come back positive and we will continue to move on down the road. The other thing I want to let everybody know, I am working on the show for next week. What takes place next week, Matthew?
Is it the virtual ICAST?
I don't think it's next week, but we'll get into that when we get Can Do Con. But I know one thing is happening next week, I believe.
What?
Stage 5? Is that what it is?
Oh, is that next week
I think-
already?
yeah, Sturgeon Bay. Is
no,
that next
it's
week?
the week after
Is
that.
it the week
yeah,
after?
it's a couple weeks.
You sure about that? Look it up for me.
I'm looking it up. Wait, this is...
4th of July weekend coming up. Oh, while you're looking that up, let me shoot this up on the screen real quick here. In case you want to grab some very patriotic garb from TH Marine, now through July 4th, you get 25% off select apparel with the code July 4. And there are some examples of some of the very patriotic
just getting all the spots or plugs
stuff.
in.
Yeah, well,
That's good stuff.
Shannon Ramsey sent that to me.
I like that
She's
guy.
like, hey, can you throw a blurb out there? And
That looks like a...
yeah, there you have
That
it.
kind of looks like a Richardson 112 there in the bottom right with the stars on the back of the...
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So just go to the TH Marine website. Make sure you put in the code July 4 on selected apparel, and you get 25% off. There you
It
go.
starts July 10th.
That's next week. Is it not?
Next Friday. Today's Wednesday.
Okay, so next Friday. I guess technically, yeah, it is next week. Anyway, the week after, not next week, but the week after, we're gonna tentatively schedule Boyd Duckett coming on. He has not been on for a while. I know there's a lot of discussion taking place amongst everybody on what 2021 might look like. I have no idea. And I thought, you know what? Let's go to the source. Let's see if we can get him on. And, maybe that next week after Sturgeon Bay, we are technically going to schedule Boyd to be on. And he can kind of talk about some of the stuff that's being talked about if it's necessary to talk about some of the stuff that's been talked about. Does that make any sense?
No. I see what you're saying, though. He's going to tell us as much as he can do about what 2021 is going to look like.
All right, here's the other thing. I kind of pulled in some of my resources, some of my inside contacts, and, dude, this New York thing is not looking very good. All right? I think that there is still a chance that it's going to go down, and we might hear something today. But, man, I just don't know if they're going to be able to pull it off, man.
I just know on the YouTube there's a comment from Michael, and I don't know. I would assume he's a marshal. He would have been a marshal. He just said, I wanted to get in early and let you know how disappointed I am that Bass has eliminated the marshals from the upcoming Elite Series event in New York. I understand the concern, just wanted to vent. So apparently that's one step.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully the alternative plan, the contingency plan, is very good. I know there's been a lot of suggestions. What would you do, Matthew? What 3 lakes could you go to that would make it great for the fans, great for the anglers, great for the sponsors, and
I have no idea. I haven't even
great for the
I
organization?
haven't even thought about that.
Dude,
I mean,
all your experience and knowledge, you can't come up with a 3-stop swing that makes sense?
you got to get a couple smallmouth stops in. I mean, you don't want to be going to these places in the middle of July and
Wait a
August.
minute. Could you not adjust? Could you not adjust? Make adjustments?
To different lakes in that region that aren't in New York?
Well, I was talking about maybe to the format where you have like a morning session. And people do not come at me and say, oh, you're just trying to duplicate Major League. No, I'm not. All right. It's because of the situation
to where you have
year.
less people in.
No, you have like a morning session and then you have a late afternoon to evening session.
I appreciate the effort, but that's a horrible idea.
Tell me why.
You don't think the fishing is going to be different in the morning than it is in the late afternoon?
Oh, absolutely. But from a fish care standpoint, would it not be better?
Oh, you mean like, why would you have a more? Why would you just? No. Now I'm not talking about fish care. I'm talking about the COVID. We've done the fish care stuff. Gene does a great job. We've seen everything that they do with the fizzing.
There's areas in the country that you could do it probably.
Yeah.
From a COVID standpoint. No, I'm talking about format standpoint.
No, everyone goes out at the same time. They take off 1 through 85. They fish for 8
That's
hours.
What I'm
they
saying.
come in 85 through 1.
Fish for 4 hours. Everybody fish for 4 hours. Come in, cool off, refresh, right, and then go out for 4 hours.
Weigh what they have then, and
yeah.
But everyone's still on the water at the same time. So you fish from like 6 to 10 and 5 to 9 or 5 to 8.
Yeah.
That's a long day. I see what you're saying.
Sorry. Take a nap during the day.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, from a fish care standpoint.
You have 2 sessions.
2 sessions.
That, I believe, is how they do it in the Australian bass tournaments.
Well, they don't have bass in Australia.
Well, yes, they have Australian bass. They have Australian bass.
It's not largemouth bass. It's not smallmouth bass.
That's why they're called Australian bass. We've been through all this stuff with all these Australian guys who have come over.
Yeah.
With Dean and Carl and the what.
But
they do different sessions.
Right. This whole suggestion was if
I see what
they
you're
were going
saying
to a place where obviously if
I thought you were talking about
degrees,
suggestions outside of New York.
Well, that too.
Yeah. I don't know.
Alabama?
No, dude, Alabama in middle of July does not sound good for anglers or fish or exciting or beneficial to any of this strategy of the season.
Wisconsin?
Yeah.
I mean, is Wisconsin the only choice?
Yeah. I don't know. There's a bunch
Ohio?
of you can get on the Great Lakes, a
Pennsylvania?
bunch of different states. There's a lot of different states that have access to the Great Lakes,
Yeah.
just like the FLW.
So you're just going to turn those 3 events into a total smallmouth bonanza?
Well, it kind of was anyway.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't at Champlain.
No, it could have been. They're getting bigger at Champlain. If you haven't noticed, the smallmouth, they're getting a lot bigger.
It couldn't have been at the Finger Lakes.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, that's 2 of the 3.
But-
so now you're just going to turn it into a smallmouth bonanza?
I don't know. I didn't think about it. I think hopefully they'll get the 3 in New York under certain
Hopefully.
restrictions.
Hopefully.
What do you give it % chance that in the next month
Right
there's
now?
3 Elite Series events in New York?
Right now, based upon the info and intel that I have, 50%.
All right, well, we'll leave it at that and then talk about it when we figure out exactly what's happening.
50%. But I know they're trying to get, and they will get the events in. I just don't like the fact that it might turn into a smallmouth bonanza. I really don't. I don't think that's an indication of the skill level of everybody in the field, and I think it gives a tremendous advantage to a select few of the guys that are in the field.
Someone said South Dakota. Yeah, go back to Oahe. There's
You
like
could.
6 people that live within 50 miles of that lake.
Yeah. And please, once again, the whole format thing, I'm just throwing stuff out there, folks.
No,
All right,
they've
that's
done
all.
that before. Bass has done evening, gone later in
In
the day.
the,
MLS has done
what
it.
was it called? The E50s?
No, they've done it on the Elite Series.
Oh, they did?
They have fished till later in the evening, taken off at 8 a.m., just like MLF did. You know, at one point, off the record, they were looking at, there has been some looking at evening night tournaments, weigh-ins on the water, like where you have the weigh-in on the water, you like idle past, tie your boat up, get out of the boat, the stage
Really?
is floating.
That's kind of cool.
They have a night tournament set up where the stage is on the water with band playing and stuff, and then the anglers come in at 10 o'clock at night.
In
and
the
they've got
history-
everything lit up. And
In the history of professional fishing, has there ever been a night tournament?
professional night tournament?
Yeah.
Not that I'm ever aware of. That counts.
Ken Duke might know that answer.
I don't think there ever has been.
I bet Ken Duke knows the answer to that. All right, last thing, and then we're going to take a break and get to Ken. I was thinking about this morning. I thought about it last night. You know what we haven't mentioned with all this taking place is the 3rd professional trail that's going to launch in 2021.
Yeah, the NPFL continues to release names of anglers who are committed to that trail and have done so with regularity. And in all honesty, at some of these tournaments, I've had numerous people ask and want to talk about the NPFL. So with everything going on, they're doing a good job of kind of staying at the forefront. They're going on different podcasts, announcing guys that are coming on, having their guys do. I mean, they're doing a coordinated effort to do it. It's not just in the background. So, what are your thoughts on it? You heard anything more on it?
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure Ken's in there. He's in the queue. Could it be impactful now? Might be, but who knows? Because I still think that the one of the biggest hurdles to overcome with that is dollars and advertising dollars and the amount of money based upon what the plan is currently, the amount of money that they're going to spend from a technology standpoint, streaming standpoint, marketing standpoint, staff standpoint. We'll see, but they've just been kind of quiet in a sense though, Matt. They have those few announcements here and there, but it's going to be very, very interesting to see how many guys continue to sign up.
Well, you
for
also
the
have to
NPFL.
understand, he said there were certain tours and other leagues that he wasn't going to schedule over, correct?
That is correct.
So you really can't announce your NPFL schedule until you know what those other schedules are for 2021.
No, that's a good point.
So you're kind of in a holding pattern.
Huh. Oops. I'm sorry.
What was that?
It's a little
Oh,
intro
that was
there.
the HDS.
Yeah.
The Lowrance HDS.
Just a
Live
little
7.
little intro there. All right, let's do this. Let's take a break, and we're going to come back with the man, Mr. Ken Duke, talk a little virtual ICAST, and talk records and history and all kinds of other stuff with Ken. All right, everybody, stay tuned here on Lunchtime on a Wednesday.
The ultimate fishing system starts with Lowrance HDS Live. The best fish finding tools, from chirp sonar and fish reveal to side scan and down scan imaging, and complete touchscreen control from your trolling motor to your big motor.
Yeah, you care about gear ratios, inches per turn, and ball bearings, but most importantly, you want reliability and dependability in the equipment you use. Luz doesn't cut corners when it comes to the gear they build. The new Speed Spool LFS is the best $99 reel in the market. Go see for yourself.
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
Kevin, what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm just filling in for Billy.
I need 660 shad crankbaits in the Series 5 model.
We're out.
You're not out. You got all kinds of them right there.
We're out.
Kevin, I need 6.
Have a lollipop.
I do not want a lollipop.
Have a lollipop.
Do you have it in sexy shad color?
At Duckett Fishing, we have assembled the top pros in the country to help us design rods to give you a competitive advantage. Castability, strength, durability, action, sensitivity, weight and balance, and consistency. Combine that with the best warranty in the industry, and you have rods that are pro-driven.
Duckett Fishing, pro-driven.
Hey everybody, Todd Faircloth here. Want to show you one of my favorite braided lines, SX1 30-pound Sunline braid. I use this braided line for a couple of different applications, and one of my favorites to use for this line is a swim jig. Casts great, and it's small diameter, and just works really great on a swim jig. Another technique I like to use for 30-pound SX1 Sunline braid is whenever I'm flipping like a light, say an 1/8 to a 1/4 ounce weight in grass, small diameter, I don't lose much action on my worm, just works great in those scenarios. So if you're looking for a braided line for a swim jig or fishing a light Texas rig, check out Sunline's SX1 30-pound braid.
All right, we are back on a Wednesday, midday Wednesday here in Oklahoma. And
These new headsets,
they're tight.
The new headsets make my ears sweat. I never had that issue before. Like my ears are sweating.
Well, they're like big time, man. They're like serious stereo noise reduction.
That's what
headphones.
I need to do. Hear you louder and clearer. I'm all good for hearing Ken Duke louder and clearer. The guy always has the answers to every question we have.
All right, let's see if I can bring him in here. Ken, you there, man?
I'm absolutely here, guys. Great to be with you.
All right. Thanks for making another appearance on BTL. And right off the bat, has there ever been a night professional tournament?
No, sir. There have been some weird ones. Ray Scott back in the 70s had a few fly rod tournaments, but no night tournaments. Matt was absolutely right. There were some tournaments with some, I'd call them evening weigh-ins, but even the weigh-in ended before dark, basically.
Wait, Ray Scott had BASS tournaments with fly rods. That's the second time you've done that.
I know. Sorry.
Okay, back to the fly rods. This. Have you heard of this, Mark?
I have not. I have not.
Enlighten us here.
Well, back in the day, back in the early mid 70s, Ray was trying to promote all aspects of the sport of bass fishing, trying to, throwing a lot of stuff against the wall, seeing what would stick. And he would occasionally run fly rod stories in Bassmaster magazine. And he thought, well, one way I can get people fired up about fly fishing for bass is if I have my top pros, my Bill Dances and Roland Martins, out there with a fly rod. It'll be a one-day tournament. Basically, it took the place of the final day of practice before their tournaments back then. And guys would have to go out. Basically, the only rule, though, Matt, was you had to use a fly rod and reel. But guys would throw plastic worms. Guys would do whatever it took to land a fish or two.
Is there any video, photographs, anything of this in existence?
Yeah.
Not that I know of. I've not seen anything about that, as far as visuals.
Are there any articles about it? Is there anything that I could explain? Because I'm just thinking now, if that went down, we'll use an example. If the BPT did it and said, we're going to use fly rod, it would be chaos in the bass. The degradation of the sport. Look, they're changing the format. Now they're making them use fly rods. But this is something Ray Scott did in the 70s.
I mean, how many rods do you think Greg Hackney would break on the hook set?
Every one of them. No, Greg Hackney would have a 7-foot fly rod that didn't bend.
Oh, yeah.
True.
Yeah. All right, Ken, a couple reasons why we wanted you on, obviously, to talk about stuff that's going on in this crazy, crazy world from a bass fishing perspective. But for the first time, and I think it's the first time ever, a virtual ICAST. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right, Mark. Of course, because the physical ICAST, which has been in Orlando for the last few years and will be in Orlando for the foreseeable future, had to be canceled because of COVID-19. They're having to find other ways to introduce new products out there and to still have a show of some kind. So this year it's going to be virtual. The American Sport Fishing Association is creating this virtual site with the help of the Freeman Company. Those are the folks who run the physical show at ICAST, and they handle registration and things like that. And because they're very familiar with these virtual type shows, I mean, their entire business has gone virtual since March, basically. We are going to have a virtual show. We'll have a virtual new product showcase, which of course is the main part of the show this year.
All right. First question is the general public going to be available to view what everything is going on and everything that's being displayed?
I believe the general public will be able to have some limited access to it. And by the way, the first question mark is who is sponsoring the virtual ICAST, and that the new product showcase, and that of course is Fishing Tackle Retailer.
All right, there you have it.
As we have for decades. But the public is going to have some access to this virtual ICAST. You'll want to go to ICAST, and you'll want to go to the ASA website, asafishing.org, find out more about it. There is an ICAST website too. I can't recall offhand if it's icast.com or
icastfishing.org.
Thank you, Matt. icastfishing.org. You can check it out there. If you're a credentialed badge holder who is either media or a buyer, you'll be able to vote in the new product showcase, just as usual.
All right, but there's no fee for the media or the buyers, or is there a fee now?
Well, there's not a fee that I'm aware of for buyers or media.
Okay.
They want to encourage as much participation as they can, so there is no fee. If you're a manufacturer, of course, and you want your products shown in the showcase, there is a fee for that. And I believe if the deadline is not already passed to get your products in the showcase, it very soon will.
All right. What are the dates, Ken?
July 13 through 17, Mark. And virtual ICAST is going to be what they call live during that period, which means it's kind of interesting. If you're a credential badge holder, media or buyer, A lot of the manufacturers are going to have a little button on their page, and you can click on it and chat live with a representative from the company if that manufacturer has made such a person available, which is a pretty cool feature.
Yeah.
So there's someone sitting there for 4 days who every time his computer goes ding, he's like, does he have to answer it with, "Hi, Jim here from ICAST 2020"? Because that's how every video starts based on the year. You want to have a contest? You want to have a you go try to find a YouTube video from ICAST that doesn't start out with the guy's name saying, "Hi, I'm Jim from ICAST 2017. Want to show you." That's the opening line right there for ICAST.
I feel like Matt's calling me out because I think I've made a few hundred of those videos.
Well, it's not just
Ken do care for ICAST 2020. It's
everybody
across the board.
You're right.
It's everybody.
Well,
You're
I mean,
right.
it's like when we're doing stuff for guys' website, I'd be like, "Hi, Dean Rojas." Well, yeah, we know you're Dean Rojas. You're on the Dean Rojas Facebook page where this video is posted. So let's just get right to the stuff.
All right, I have to say this. Kenny, we had a conversation 3 years ago about ways to improve the interaction between fans, customers, buyers, everything else. And the idea that I suggested was if you have particular companies that want to showcase particular items, have a showcase room of which they can broadcast live and people can interact with this individual company that has this lure, rod, reel, whatever it is. And look what's happening now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know, I think this virtual ICAST is interesting from a couple of perspectives. One, let's assume for a moment that it's a huge success, that a lot of people check out virtual ICAST, that the companies have a good experience with it. Well, now ASA is in the position of they're going to have to offer it again next year, in my opinion, because they're not going to want to take a step back and not have this technology. So you're good. At that point, you start to wonder, what is it going to do to the physical attendance at ICAST, which has been around that 15,000 mark for the last couple of years. But Mark, I've always loved your idea. Here's my caveat to that, though. Mm-hmm. ICAST is a trade show. It's an industry show. It's not a show for the general public. It's not a show where guys in our bass clubs can go and check stuff out, unless, of course, we sneak them a badge, which only happens every single day of the show.
Yeah.
But it's not supposed to be for the end user, the consumer out there. I think if you and the other thing that's tricky about ICAST, and you guys know this so well, but it's been less so in the last 5 or 10 years, is everything you see at ICAST is not ultimately going to wind up in a store. A lot of it will never, ever be made because it doesn't generate sales at the show. It doesn't generate media interest at the show. And so the companies say, well, nobody liked it. We're not going to make it. And it's kind of tricky when you show the general public the new Pang Rack soft plastic bait, but then it doesn't ever make it to market, and Matt winds up just pouring it in his garage.
Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come.
Wow. What do you think the impact on the industry itself is going to be by not having a typical ICAST, Ken?
Really tough question, Mark. I come in here, you don't throw me the softballs like you promised, you know? It's one tough question after another. Wow, that's hard to say. I think that the industry in many ways has suffered a lot in 2020. In many ways, the industry is coming out smelling like a rose in 2020. Internet sales for most of your manufacturers are through the roof. They're up 250, 300% over last year. Brick and mortar sales in some cases are going great, in some cases not so great, depending on whether or not states have allowed retail tackle shops to stay open. Manufacturers are struggling because the production chain has been disrupted. And a lot of companies, a lot of folks, whether we're talking manufacturers, retailers, whoever, suffered because they lost the 3 key months of the season, which are March, April, and May for most fishing in the U.S. It's really hard to say, and it's really hard to say how much a virtual ICAST is even going to impact that. Mm-hmm. But I think what virtual ICAST I think has the best opportunity to do is to kind of return us to some sort of normalcy. Get us kind of back on track. That's one of the things I'm hoping for from this virtual ICAST. It gets us back into our routine of seeing these new products in the middle of July every year, for buyers and manufacturers to get together to make plans for what's going to be available in stores come the springtime. And I think that's critical. I think we desperately need that.
Okay, so so the thing about ICAST, you go there, you look at the stuff, you look at all the new product showcase. Some of it you can touch, put your hands on. You can go by the booth, touch it, put your hands on. Now you're just going to be able to look at it in a picture. I mean, the new product showcase, you're feeling the rods and all that. ICAST has been noted in past years. Last year was not bad, I thought. Man, there's a lot of stuff that wins and gets a lot of publicity that's flashy. I mean, it looks bizarre, and it freaking wins. Do you think virtual ICAST, this flashier, attention-grabbing stuff, regardless of its impact and how effective it is going to get more publicity and more notoriety now? Because, I mean, you look at a quality rod or something, and you're like, okay, it looks like a picture of a rod on a computer screen. But you look at something that's like, a 3D chipmunk with a vacuum cleaning motor that makes the legs move, and you're like, now I can look at 8 different angles of this, and I'm interested in this. That's what I want to know more about. So log explanation, but does the flashier stuff in 2020 ICAST get more love than the non-flashy stuff?
Yes. Next question, please. No, I'm kidding. Yes, absolutely, Matt. I mean, look at it. Let's think about it this way. What was the biggest, most important bait introduced in the bass world in the 90s? I'm going to argue it was the Senko. Let's imagine a Senko sitting on a shelf at ICAST, or a Senko pictured against a white background at a virtual ICAST. That is the most boring lure in the history of the game. And it's going to lose to a spider or a duck or a bat every single time.
Or a rock.
Or a rock. Because we can't tie it on and throw it and watch the bass climb all over it. Flashy, gimmicky, strange, different. Not only does it traditionally win at ICAST, but I see nothing slowing it down when ICAST is virtual.
I think it's going to do more. It's going to do better.
Absolutely, Mike.
We'll see, man.
When you
yeah, go ahead, Ken.
I was going to say, when you look at most of the baits that have kind of revolutionized the bass tackle industry, even if it was momentarily, whether we're talking about the Alabama rig, the chatterbait, the Senko, the Big O, most of these lures didn't win anything because they look too ordinary, or they peak at the wrong time. The chatterbait and the Alabama rig peaked at the wrong time. They peaked in the fall or winter, months before ICAST. By the time ICAST rolls around, there are 17 knockoffs, and so it's tough. That's why bats, spiders, ducks, and Rosie O'Donnell, the treble hook in her, win at ICAST.
You mentioned the knockoff. What's your opinion between an improvement or a version of a bait and a knockoff? Where does it go from, man, you knocked off a bait, to this is a better version with changes to a bait, to where it's not a knockoff?
Well, Matt, you know enough tackle people. You know enough people in the tackle industry to know that every knockoff is an improvement, and it's a dramatic improvement, and there's never been anything like it. It's a game changer, Matt. I mean, it's hard to say. Most of these knockoffs are enough different that they either get around a patent, or they find something else about that product that they can work to their marketing advantage. Some of us would argue that this is an improvement or that's an improvement, but a lot of that is pretty subjective. Mm-hmm. If you're making it with better components, it's hard to say. How much of it's an improvement? I gotta go somewhere around 50-50.
I don't know if you can even say this, but have there not been, I don't bring names or anything, but have there not been like booze at ICAST where someone with a product walks past and goes, son of a gun, that's my stuff in their booth. And then they go get people from ICAST, and like that product gets like challenged and removed. And it's like this big legal thing that goes down on the floor. And they're saying, no, we have a right to be here. And they're saying, no, this is our bait. You can't be. How did you get this? I mean, like that happens pretty much every year, right?
I wouldn't know about every year, but a few years ago, it was a kind of a notorious situation where a Chinese company entered a soft plastic product in the new product showcase. I believe, I'm not even going to use a name now.
Yeah, don't use names. The story's awesome.
Yeah, I think you guys know who it was. He came up with a particular tail to a soft plastic bait that is used extensively by a major manufacturer. He saw this product on the shelf. It was such a copy that it practically had his logo on it. And he yanked it off the shelf and demanded to see the people who had put it there. And ultimately, their response, and they were a Chinese company apparently, their response was simply to say, well, we just wanted to show that we can make a high quality product that was ready for the American market. And that didn't go over real well.
No, no.
But until there are international patent laws, it hardly matters. You know, one of the things that's made the chatterbait so special is its patent, which says that you can't attach that blade directly to the line tie on the jig head. Only Z-Man and Z-Man licensed products can do that because those folks own the patent. Well, I go to Japan every once in a while, and because my wife has family there, she's Japanese, and I love going in the tackle shops over there and looking for all the stuff that violates the patents, so I can, on home and see how it works.
Interesting.
There's a bunch of them over there where it's directly to the line tie, aren't there?
Oh my God! you guys, come on over. We'll go fishing. We'll go black market fishing.
Wow.
The black market fishing.
There you have it. All right, Kenny, over the last few years, there seems to have been one particular item that seems to be present multiple times. Right? I'm talking about kayaks, ice chests, the $99 reel.
Trolling motor.
It seems like there is a trend. Can you give us any indication of what might be a trend this year?
Great question. I'm seeing a few different things. In the tackle storage world, additional modularity and additional customization is a trend that I'm seeing. Not just from the big dogs at Plano, the folks who control the bulk of that market, but also from some other and notably smaller companies. They're doing that sort of thing too, whether it's a new company like Busby or some of the other folks. Obviously, we're seeing the new stuff in terms of shallow water anchors. We've seen Minn Kota come out with a new product.
The Raptor.
From their the Raptor.
Yeah.
It's a new trend apparently. We're certainly seeing technology grow. We've got Berkeley coming out. Or Pure Fishing. I don't know if it's on their Abu line or their Berkeley line, but they've got these rods now that have a button in the butt, and you can press it and it locks in certain information, geographic information and stuff like that.
What?
Mm-hmm. That was out last year.
How much is that going to retail for? Any idea?
I don't think it's particularly expensive.
No, it's with the Angler app, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It ties into that Angler app. And Matt, you're absolutely right. I saw that last year for the first time. They did a demo behind a hotel in Orlando before ICAST. Well, they seem to be making a bigger push with it this year. Everybody's got something going out there, and it's hard to see. It's hard to see yet if there's going to be a chunk of the market. Whether it's the sonar world or the bucket world or the lure world, it's going to veer off into this weird path. But one of the things I'm really hopeful about this virtual ICAST is, since it's not a brick and mortar show this year, I am hoping that a lot more companies are going to participate, that they are going to say to themselves, hey, we're not going to have to drop $10,000 just showing up in Orlando and another $10,000 just to get our booth. Instead, we can spend some money and we can get in the new product showcase. And I'm hoping there will be even more products on display. Now, last year there were about 1,000 products on display, so we'll be able to tell real quickly if it competes with that or not.
Just based on looking at some of the photos that were on Bassmaster, that have been featured on other websites and stuff that have, and other companies that are coming out with it, I think this is going to be, and I don't know if this is true or not, I think you are going to see a push towards revamped old school lures.
Like what?
You're going to see, well, I mean, like just like that Boy Howdy. You see Abergast coming out with a bunch of different stuff. You see Strike King with some older crankbaits that they're revamping, bringing them back new. I think you're going to see some kind of like what the Pop R did with reintroducing the P70 a couple years ago. I think you're going to see some old school lures that come back into production, new, upgraded, revamped, like kind of what they did it with the Rogue coming out, the Perfect 10, kind of doing that. But I think you're going to see a bunch of that stuff this year.
I wonder how much of that is really reintroducing, and how much of that is the Chinese chain of production being disrupted, and these big companies are just going into their warehouse and seeing what's left.
You would know the answer to that, Ken.
Oh my God! Look at all these river runs.
Yeah. Hey, what was the company? And I went totally blank. What was the company that made the Sluggo?
That was Lunker City. They still make the Sluggo. That's Herb Reed, my buddy Herb Reed.
Did they ever stop making it?
No, they still make Herb still makes the Sluggo. Not only is Herb an outstanding lure maker and designer, but he's also an extremely talented artist. He did 2 covers of Bassmaster magazine back in the 80s. He is a superior talent in a lot of ways, but Lunker City still makes the Sluggo.
That's right. Did the Sluggo not come out before
the Senko?
The Senko?
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, the Senko was designed to knock off the Sluggo and the Fluke. When Gary Yamamoto made that thing, I think he was at a tournament at Okeechobee, and when he started thinking about that thing, he wanted something to compete with that. And he worked on it, and finally he took a look at the Bic pen in his pocket, and he called the office in Page, Arizona, and said, "Hey, I want you to make a mold of this Bic pen." And that's what I want this lure to look like. And of course, the Senko is born. But when Yamamoto came up with it and started fishing it, he was twitching it like a soft plastic jerkbait. It wasn't until the lure hit the public and people started to experiment with it and play with it that they realized they had a brand new lure type.
Was there anything that Lunker City could have done when the Sluggo came out to protect that style of bait, or is that just impossible to do that? I'm just curious, just like the chatterbait did with what Ron Davis did with that. I mean, in hindsight, could Lunker City have had the market on the straight tail do nothing style of plastics?
That's really tough. The first thing I would say is the Sluggo has got a certain segmentation to it. And Herb might have been able to patent that segmentation. And hey, I'm not even sure that he may have a patent on the Sluggo. I don't know. But if you patent a bait like that and you're patenting your segmentation or something really specific about your product, it's not hard to get around some of that stuff. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is that you cannot patent something that is designed to mimic a real life creature. Not that the Sluggo does that, not that the Senko does that. But let's say, look at the Guido bug, where Dion Hibden, as a kid, shoved a crawdad in some plaster of Paris and they started pouring it. That would be unpatentable because it mimics a real life creature.
Really?
So there are a lot of fine tuning things that you can do to get around patents. The smart companies, in my opinion, what they do is they patent something that they can replicate across a wide variety of baits.
Like a rage tail.
Yeah, the rage tail at Strike King, the UV tail at Zoom. Patrick Sebile spool tech stuff. Those things that they're replicating across a wide product line, those are the things you spend the money on to patent, because it's $10,000 or $20,000 to get a patent these days.
But you can't patent something based after, so like the ducks, but none of those are patentable.
Well, no,
the
those
technology
are
to make it, but
those are, you can't patent a duck decoy because that's designed to absolutely mimic life.
Okay.
But if your duck has two bills on either side that cause it to wobble from side to side, yeah, you can patent that.
You're patenting technology. You can't just say, I'm the one who makes duck lures. No one else can make a duck. That's a duck. I'm suing you.
Exactly. You can't do that.
I understand it. I just wanted to make sure I had it right.
All right, Ken, is there a shift or a trend in retail or manufacturers selling in bulk rather than individual packs? I'm starting to see a few companies start to position, 25 counts. And even I remember Berkeley had 100 counts of power worms, 10-inch worms, and all kinds of other things. And then it just kind of went away. Is that a trend that's coming back, or is it really the marketability of the single packs?
It's all about marketability. It's all about what that retail space is worth. I think one of the reasons that you have not maybe seen a lot of that through the years is because individual retailers have come to understand that it's hard to move 100 pack of this or that. I was in a Dick's Sporting Goods recently, and I noticed that they're carrying 25, 50, and 100 count bags of Yum Dingers. And of course, it's a terrific deal when you buy in larger volume. But A, you've got to want all the same size and color. And B, instead of forking out $4 or $5, you're forking out $20 or $30. And most retailers are not moving that volume and that dollar amount as quickly as they can get rid of stuff on a spindle for $4 or $5.
All right. Can you elaborate any? We've talked about it on the show. We've had listeners send us pictures of bare shelves and Academy and Dick's and a lot of other retailers across the country. Bass Pro. Yeah. Can you give us and the fans any insight on where the distribution and the logistics of trying to get these shelves filled back up? I mean, you are the guy, fishing tackle retailer. What's the scoop?
Well, the scoop is that chain of production was disrupted beginning early this year, late last year in China. A lot of this stuff is made in China. Sometimes not all of a product is made in China, but maybe just the split ring is made in China. Maybe the swivel is made in China. Maybe the hook is made in China. But just because you have 99% of your components doesn't mean you can make 99 baits. You still can't make even one bait if an important component is missing. So it's a couple of things, guys. One thing is this. These retailers, and you notice it a lot in the big boxes, but these retailers wanted these products back in the spring, in March, April, May. That's, for example, when they thought they were going to sell a lot of spinner baits, okay? Bass are shallow, spinner bait's a great search bait. We're going to order a billion spinner baits, so we'll have them in March. Spinner baits didn't get there. Now the spinner baits are available, but they don't think they can sell the spinner baits because it's worm and deep cranking time now in that market. So rather than fill that space with spinner baits that are just going to take up room, they're saying, no, I'll either wait for the price to go down because there's a glut of spinner baits out there, or I'll fill that space with something else, crankbaits, worms, whatever it might be. So even though the supply chain is catching up, a lot of the retailers don't think they can sell that stuff that would have been big in March or April. So they're not filling some of those spindles.
So, I mean, I've been in an Academy probably at least once a week the last 4 weeks, and the shelves are still empty. Even with crankbaits, even with, power baits and worms and Strike King stuff and everything else, the stuff that is relevant to the time that we have now, what is it a stuff still stuck on the boat, or what's going on, Ken? I mean, I get the spinnerbait thing, but what about the stuff that is relevant now?
some of these companies, and especially if you're talking about a big box store that's not really dedicated to fishing, their buyers, especially their buyers in the outdoor department, may not have the clout to demand the kind of purchase power that they would like to have right now because they took such a hit in March, April, and May.
Okay.
They may not be able to fill it for internal, almost political reasons. But as far as the other stuff goes, maybe it's not caught up because, a lot of the Chinese production was shut to basically zero for a long time. When it did come back into production, it came back into production at much lower rates. In some cases, the manufacturers canceled orders because they didn't think these products were going to move. And so those products are simply unavailable. Then they worried that they were going to take a hit, so they did not place a big order for the stuff maybe that might be relevant in your market now. And so everything gets wickedly screwed up.
Is this helping in some instances, helping the smaller independent one-off tackle stores? Because, I mean, I know, so I was getting ready for the Central Open, and there's some stuff that I wanted. Bass Pro didn't have it. Obviously, Academy didn't have it. Didn't know if I'd be able to get it from Tackle Warehouse. So I had a buddy stop by a mom and pop shop that was fully stocked with everything that I needed and spent $150 there on the way to the river.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, the independent stores are doing really well. But when you look at it nationwide, Matt, the problem is that a lot of them were forced to close. A lot of manufacturers were forced to close. So some of that production didn't catch up for those reasons. A lot of American manufacturers were forced to close their operations, so their product is not available. But a lot of dealers were forced to close. Some were able to stay open through weird loopholes, like they also sell, nachos and Cokes, so they're an essential grocery producer. Or they also sell live bait, and that gets them in under a loophole. Yeah. Some of them were allowed to sell the bait, but not the lures. Some of them were allowed to sell the Cheetos, but not the spinner baits. And in some places, they've done really well. Here in Florida, generally, the independent retailers have done really well because here in America, as I like to call Florida, we've been lucky, and fishing was classified as an essential activity.
And then one more question. Regardless of, and this is just, kind of talking with people who are in the industry with baits, regardless of what country it comes from, whether it's all Chinese, all Japanese, all American, all whatever, you buy a crankbait, any of those, especially a hard bait with components, how many of those are all built in the same country, where every component comes from the same country, whereas this is 100% from this? And how many of them have multiple different countries, and that adds to the chaos of getting everything together, which is what you were talking about earlier?
17 products are made exclusively in one country. No, I have no idea, Matt.
Well, I just didn't know. I mean, it would seem like there's a lot of, like, what percent of components would you say split rings, swivels, hooks, the main bodies come from China?
Why does Matt always ask me these insanely difficult questions, Mark?
I don't know.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. Unfortunately, I just don't have any idea.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know.
I can tell you this, but you know this from just your own intuition about things and your own excellent understanding of how the industry works. But the larger and more complex and the more parts a particular item has, the greater the chance that it's those products are coming from a multitude of nations.
And that's what I was saying, talking to guys who've done reels and stuff before. You're sitting there and you're like, okay, he's building it here, but he's getting the gears here that are being manufactured in this other country where they have, your millimeters off and stuff. And I mean, it's chaos to get all this stuff together in one reel that actually works. Would you agree?
Me?
Yeah, both of you.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. But one of the interesting things that COVID-19 is doing, because it started in China, because it hit China so hard, is it is forcing a lot of manufacturers to diversify their manufacturing base. You're going to see fewer and fewer companies that are going to be having their stuff manufactured or at least put together exclusively in one country. They're going to become more diversified. They're going to do some stuff in the U.S. They're going to do some stuff in Mexico. They'll do some stuff in Korea or China or wherever, in hopes that something like this won't hit again. How successful that'll be, so much depends on how complex your product is. I mean, if you're talking about a plastic worm, that's not that tough, really. Talking about some plastisol and a mold. But what else is really interesting about this and tragic in a lot of ways is when things get tough in China, and these plants shut down, even if it's only temporarily, these people are out of work, they lose their income, and sometimes they may feel they have no choice other than to abscond with whatever is valuable where they left it behind. And I know of some manufacturers who had molds worth $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, the mold alone, stolen from the plant. And they have to get a new mold made to get the production back in place. And and then that mold might be sold for $20 or $30 in that country.
Wow.
But because we look at the manufacturing aspect of it, but there's obviously a tremendous human cost to all of this in China and all over the world, not just in the U.S., although it's been devastating here for so many people.
All right, let's do this. We're going to take a couple of questions, and then we'll take a break. And during the break, if you have any other questions for Ken, go ahead and put them on the instant feedback or on the YouTube comments. And then we will get into the discussion of KVD and Jacob Wheeler. So here, I'm going to flash this question up. Ken, what is your favorite lure to come from ICAST in the last few years?
That's a great question. Bear with me on that one just a minute.
Please don't say The Rock.
That was more than a few years ago. That's legend status now.
You know, over here on a bulletin board I have in my office, I've got the last few best of show winners, the hard baits, because they're all very gimmicky, and I get a big kick out of them. But some favorite baits coming out of ICAST. Wow. I like the General, from Berkeley. I think that's a nice stick worm. I don't have to use an O-ring on that or get out the shrink tubing. I can go straight through the hook straight through the bait on that. That's a nice bait.
The most boring bait to be introduced in the past. He picks a salt-laden Cinco that smells different.
I live in Florida. That stuff plays.
Okay, fair enough.
My friends at Fish Head have produced some really cool underspin style stuff the last few years, including a thing called the Primal Vibe. Oh my gosh, the Z-Man people, they keep finding ways to reintroduce and reinvent the chatterbait. Every one seems cooler and better than the last one.
More expensive.
Daniel Nussbaum, you know my address.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Ken, did you ever think that a chatterbait would be more expensive than a barrel of oil?
That's
how about
great,
that?
Mark. I did not consider that a possibility. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
That one escaped me. My Nostradamus-like abilities, sad though they may be.
All right, so we have the General, we have the chatterbait, or we have the Z-Man stuff.
Z-Man, the Ned stuff out of Z-Man, the Ned stuff out of Missile, those have been really impressive. Big Bite has come out with some craws that I love to pitch and flip down here. Wow.
That's all good stuff.
Yeah.
You're asking me tough questions again. I gotta go to my garage to answer that.
Tease it up. Is the Wheeler KVD stuff for the next segment even going to be tough, or are you going to put this to bed one way or the other?
I don't know that I can put it to bed one way or another. I can give you guys some numbers
After the break?
Yeah,
that I
after
think
the
are
break.
interesting. Yeah, after the break.
But they are interesting numbers.
I think so.
They'll make you
I
think.
think so. They'll make you think, and they'll hearken us back to the debate about who was greater, Roland Martin or Rick Clunn.
Interesting. And then I want to go over a topic that really grinds my gears after we're done with the
Really?
Wheeler.
You're upset about something.
I'm not upset, but I am very concerned over it.
I hope it's not me.
No, it's not you. It's putting things into historical context for the past generations and generations to come, and that is what Ken is very good at. So I mean, it doesn't like keep me up at night. It kind of keeps me up at night. It does.
Wow.
I'll admit. I'm a little disturbed at how we're going to rationalize and put into context what is happening now in the grand scheme of the sport based on some things as far as payouts, formats, WIDs, everything. So we'll get into that after we do. You didn't see that one coming, did you?
No, I didn't. Wow. All right. That could be monumental on BTL. We'll see.
Matt Pangrak, Bass Justice Warrior.
Come out in a suit of armor, man.
BJ
Just get
W.
after it. That's funny. All right, one last question, and then we'll take a break from the instant feedback. Brian from Lake Norman wants to know your opinion on the Evinrude situation.
Really interesting stuff, obviously. I know some guys who spent a lot of big money getting Evinrudes recently. And now they're second guessing themselves, of course. But welcome to the market. Welcome to the free market and the ups and downs out there. In retrospect, now I wonder if they wish they had held on a little bit longer, because right now boats and motors are doing surprisingly well. I think people are really optimistic about the economy. They think that these stimulus checks are just free money, and they're going to their boat dealer and buying stuff. And I love it. I don't know how long it might last, but I do like it for now.
All right, there you have it. All right, let's do this. Let's take a break, and then we will come back with some more questions and the KVD Jacob Wheeler comparison. Everybody stay tuned right here on Wednesday.
Let's face it, fishing electronics are no longer an afterthought. They've become a necessity. And at the Bass Tank, our experts match you with the right electronics, provide professional installation, and educate you to help maximize your catching results while providing support along the way. Because let's be honest, it's about catching, not just fishing. And when you're ready for better results, join the Bass Tank team. Visit us today on Facebook or go to thebasstank.com.
Blue Water by TH Marine. Offering LED lighting solutions for your boat, trailer, truck, ATV, and so much more. Engineered and built to be rugged with waterproof and submersible options. Designed for easy installation, Blue Water is available in a variety of colors and styles. All backed by a limited lifetime warranty. Blue Water by TH Marine.
The name SPRO says it all. SPRO stands for Sports Professionals. When you look at the pro staff that SPRO has brought on board over the past 15 years, it's been pretty incredible. I mean, one got it just then. From the development of the rock crawler to the McStick, from the Fat Papa to the Little John series, when you tie a SPRO bait on, you know it's been designed by a professional to get the job done.
As a professional angler, you've got so many things on your mind. Any advantage that we have is key. And not only rods and reels and lines and baits, but in our clothes. And the guys at AFCO, they have something for every situation. There's nothing AFCO hasn't thought about with the fishermen in mind. It's designed for fishermen, by fishermen, for every scenario you can come to. Any fish, any water, any condition, AFCA has you covered. All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks.
Why?
Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
The Big Bite Baits Kamikaze Swim On is a very unique bait, and it's got a full body but with ribs to give it a bigger profile but not more plastic. It's got a jointed tail that gives it a lot of action, as well as this up and down crawl type trail with holes and ribs in it, so it creates a bubble trail almost. This bait is supposed to be fished upside down or vertical like this on a great for a chatterbait. I prefer it on a swim jig as well, but you can also cut it down and put it on the back of a finesse jig. You know, flip it around for some spotted bass or flipping docks. Anytime you want a small, compact, little trailer for it, this is great for it. So check out the full lineup of swim-ons at bigbitebaits.com.
All right, we are back with our good friend Ken Duke on a Wednesday. We're wrapping up the week. Next week's show, make sure you check out basszone.com on Sunday night. The listing will be out there on Sunday. And one thing I need to address real quick before we get back to Ken is, folks, I'm telling you, I've gotten more comments and emails from people that are frustrated with the situation that has taken place with iTunes. Matt, what did I tell you yesterday? I have been on the phone with these people for hours.
You said you got it fixed.
They told me it was fixed, and then the next thing I know, I get an email last night.
I looked at it. Mine was up.
Mine was there. Look, we had 12,000 downloads yesterday, so I'm assuming that it's working, but I'm still getting emails. So, folks,
we're losing stars.
I am not intentionally saying, "Oh, I'm not trying to get that fixed."
We lost a star. He said every time it's not there, he takes a star away.
Come
one of his comments.
I'm doing everything
Stars are
I can.
valuable, Mark.
I understand that. I'm doing everything I can to get this situation. In fact, I threw out the throwdown today. You know what that is, Matthew?
You threw out the... Did you do the I am the customer and I would hate to have to take my business to another streaming, another company?
I sent him an email that had the instructions on how to transfer everything to Podbean. I was like, I really don't want to do this, but if you don't get this fixed, I'm done and moving on.
Yeah, you did. So, I heard it. You did your typical, like, I'm a value customer. Yes. I'm one of the top. Like, just do the right thing here.
In this platform,
vintage
Matt,
Jeffrey's
in this platform,
speech.
We are the 10th most downloaded podcast on the platform.
Yeah, that's impressive till you see the 9 ahead of us.
What's wrong with that?
Well, they're just, like, crazy, but like you were like
that's
one time I looked at it,
to,
it would be like Hot Dog Lovers Podcast.
That is not true.
Where like it's a podcast on the different types of like Frankfurters.
That is not true. Not true. Anyway, man, you I can't believe you just did that. But anyway,
read the title. I'm just saying it's interesting. Read the titles ahead of us. Pull us up. Read the titles.
I cannot believe you did that.
But there's really thousands and thousands on the podcast platform. It's a big podcast platform.
I cannot believe you did that. Anyway, let's get back to Ken.
Not. I mean, it's not like it's like Joe Rogan and then BTL.
No, he has hundreds of thousands of downloads.
Yeah.
But to compare us to some dude that is categorizing hot dogs, are you kidding me?
God, you're going to be pissed at me after this.
Yeah, I'm going to be pissed. I'm pissed right now.
I can tell. We got to get back
to
Ken.
Ken, thanks for being a part of the show, man.
Hey, man, I only live in a...
Oh, look, Ken Duke. You're still here.
Jeez.
Matt,
anyway.
I only live in a Mark Jeffries virtual world, because lately I've been doing Bass U Live with Pete and the guys, and now I'm on here. Just call me Virtual Ken.
There you have it. That's the way it is. I forgot to ask you, what is your part in virtual ICAST? Are you going to be on there doing stuff and everything?
No, ASA's got that covered. of course, with Fishing Tackle Retailer and fishingtackleretailer.com, we are also covering a lot of new products. But, of course, the stuff we're covering isn't necessarily entered in the new product showcase, which is the stuff that's entered in an attempt to win an award. But, we're gonna be getting our stuff out through our website. As you mentioned, Bassmaster.com is going to be getting stuff out. A lot of websites out there, especially that are specific to a certain style or species, are going to be getting some new products out there. So there's going to be a lot of ways to see the new stuff.
All right, man. A lot of discussion on this show over the years, especially here recently, about the comparison between what Jacob Wheeler has done and what Kevin Van Dam has done. I asked you, Kenny, can you throw out some stats? Can you do some research, maybe for 6 to 10 years, whatever? Is there a comparison there? What do you got?
It was a really interesting comparison. And the first way I decided to look at it, which I thought was going to be maybe the best way, and that's arguable, but rather than look at a period of years, rather than look at a number of tournaments, I decided to look at both these guys up to the age of 30. Because Jacob Wheeler will be 30 in September. So he's still got a few months, and at the rate this guy is going, he can win another couple of events. But when I broke it down and looked at them to the age of 30, what I realized was that that Kevin actually started a little earlier than Wheeler. He fished his first professional event when he was just short of 20 years old. Jacob Wheeler did not fish his first, opens level, let's call it, professional event until he was about 21 and a half. But Wheeler went full time with it sooner. And Wheeler has fished more events in his career to this point than Kevin Van Dam had fished to the same age. Not a tremendous number more. Van Dam had fished like 86 events, 87 events, something like that. And Wheeler has fished about 100. The next thing I wanted to do was to, and I'm not saying this is dispositive of the issue, but I wanted to look at where they finished relative to their competition. And for that, I gave them all a percentile rank because I want to be able to rank them apples to apples, whether they were fishing in a field of 100 anglers or whether they're fishing in a field of 330 anglers. And so I scored them on a percentile. They're really, really close on the percentile score. Who do you think's ahead, Matt, on the percentile score?
I know in Van Dam and that, I mean, there were a lot of 330-plus boat tournaments. I would have to say Wheeler's ahead of Van Dam by a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Van Dam is ahead of Wheeler by a little bit.
Wow.
So really? Kevin gets the edge on percentile finishes to the age of 30. But then I started looking at some. You guys are sports fans. I'm gonna call it what a lot of the Hall of Fame fans call in the baseball world. They call it the black ink test. When you're looking at a guy's spreadsheet of his stats, the bold numbers are the ones that where he led a league or something like that. So I wanted to take a look at how many championships they had qualified for to this age. And Wheeler's got the edge there. Wheeler has been to 10 major championships, either Wood Cups or Classics or Red Crest. Van Dam, to the age of 30, had been to 7. Okay? I think that's significant. Pretty significant edge to Wheeler there. Now, how much of that is because he turned full-time pro at a younger age? Probably a lot, probably at least a couple of them. Then I looked at how many of those monster championship tournaments each of those guys had won to the age of 30. And Wheeler won a Wood Cup. Van Dam had not won any major tournament to the age of 30. His first, and Van Dam to the age of 30 had never fished a major professional tournament other than BASS. He did not fish any of the FLW stuff to that point. He was over 30 when he first went and fished any of the FLW stuff. And of course, he was Angler of the Year once over there. So Wheeler has won a major event before the age of 30. Van Dam had not. But here's another stat that I think is bigger than that, because that's ultimately just one tournament against a small field. Van Dam had 2 AOYs to his credit by the time he was 30. He won in 92. He won again in 96 when he was, 24 and 28 years old, respectively. That's awfully impressive. Van Dam is still one of the youngest guys ever to win AOY and the youngest guy ever to win multiple AOYs. So that's a pretty hefty edge, because Wheeler has had some great seasons, but he hasn't come super close to winning AOY. Whereas Kevin's career to the age of 30 was all BASS, Wheeler's career has been kind of all over the place. He's fished everywhere, whether it's been MLF or FLW or BASS. He's been everywhere. One of the, and maybe he gets some extra points for that. Maybe not. I think that's kind of a subjective thing. Different formats, different fields, different strengths of field. You got to kind of weigh some of that to decide who's better and more accomplished. One thing I think that Wheeler gets a big edge to the age of 30, but it'll be interesting to see if he can hold on to that edge, is his performance in major championships. I'm talking about Wood Cups. I'm talking about classics. Wheeler is a monster, an absolute unprecedented monster in major championships.
Yeah.
I'm not going to count the Red Crest, because it's hard to classify where guys finish in that thing on some level. But in the other 9 championships he's fished, he's been in the top 10 7 times.
Wow.
That's ridiculous. Nobody has that kind of track record, unless you go to Kevin in his 30s and early 40s. And that's the thing I want to say about Van Dam. None of what I'm about to say about Van Dam earns him any points in this discussion. But because you guys were there and had a front row center seat for it, as I was lucky enough to have, Kevin Van Dam did not become the Kevin Van Dam that we talk about until 2005, when he was, 36 years old, and that, I'm sorry, 38 years old. That's when he won his second classic. That's when he won 3 BASS events in a row. That's when he started knocking off 4 Angler of the Year titles in a row and 2 more classics. Kevin Van Dam did not become Kevin Van Dam until he was about 38. And that's not unusual in terms of angler performance. If you want to look at the peak years of a professional angler, ordinarily we're talking about 30 to 45, and maybe more particularly 35 to 45. If Jacob Wheeler, if this is not the peak of Jacob Wheeler's career, look out. Look out. If Jacob Wheeler can progress the way a lot of other guys have in the sport and have his best years at that period, because by then he's got a lot more experience, a lot more time on the water at key fisheries, then he's got a lot of potential to become the GOAT. If he doesn't find that gear that Kevin Van Dam found at the age of 38, then he's not going to get it done. But I would say, and this doesn't put it to bed, but I would say that to this point in their careers, to the age of 30, I got to give the edge to Wheeler.
Yeah. That is fascinating stuff right there, Ken. And I greatly appreciate you breaking that down. I know the fans do too. But for him to continue, and I'm talking about Jacob, for him to continue what he has done from age 20 to 30, from 30 to 40, it's going to have to be, pardon the pun, very KVD-ish in order to maintain that edge over surpassing everything that Kevin has done.
I absolutely agree with you, Mark. He's going to have to find another gear. Yeah. Can he do that? Who knows? One of the things that drove Kevin, in my opinion, I can't look inside Kevin's head, but one of the things that that I think drove Kevin so much through the years was, he was 33, 34 years old before he won his first Classic. Kevin always found a way to drive himself. He never had to have somebody talking trash about him or anything else. He always answered the gun, and I think that's tough to do. Most of the guys that the three of us have followed in our careers in outdoors media, once they've won their big championship, or once they've won their AOY, once they've climbed that mountain, they've found it harder to get back in that gear. What gets you up in the morning if you've already climbed the hill? Kevin never had a problem with that. Rick Clunn never had a problem getting fired up for the Bassmaster Classic. Does Jacob Wheeler have that gear? We're going to find out. It's going to take years to find out, but we're going to find out.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. All right, I'm going to throw up a comment, and you should be able to see these. Is the technology giving JW the advantage on the water? KVD did not have that back then. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's not even an argument. What Kevin had back then is what everybody else had back then. He wasn't competing against the guys in 2020. You can only compete against your contemporaries. And Kevin had what his contemporaries had. And I'm gauging him, I'm scoring him against his contemporaries. So if you want to make the argument, and I don't think it's a particularly strong argument, but if you want to make the argument that the fields are tougher now, then I'm not scoring against how tough the fields were. I'm scoring against how the fields were relative to the time.
You could say that, oh, look, Wheeler has 360, live scope, everything on his boat. Well, what came out around the time KVD started winning everything? Side imaging. So you could say, well, KVD only won because he was ahead of the time with Humminbird, and he had the side imaging and got offshore before everyone else did because he got it. I mean, you could make the same case when KVD started catching that you can with Wheeler now, but I agree with it. You can't compare this. You can't compare those two. It's comparable, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He had the latest and greatest, just like Wheeler has the latest and greatest. Everybody that had the opportunity to get the latest and greatest then, everybody has the opportunity to put 3 different units on the front deck of their boat.
All right, Bobby Colson has a comment. Is it possible to factor in KVD, Clunn, Nixon fishing during the coin flip days? And today's guys have marshals or even a co-angler.
I have a system I created maybe 10 years ago that I think would allow me to compare anglers across eras better than the way I was just able to try to compare Van Dam and Wheeler. And to do that, what I do is I calculate the average number of bass caught by competitors in each event, the average amount of weight weighed in by anglers per day, and then I balance it against guys so that you're comparing apples to oranges. You're not comparing a 15 fish era weight against a 5 fish era weight. But the problem is that these tournament organizations have done such a remarkably poor job of preserving their history that it makes it virtually impossible to do it. And it would also be a huge undertaking. And so far, Mark Jeffries has not agreed to pay me to take it on.
Yeah. All right. Jim wants to know, will Wheeler continuing mostly in the BPT throw everything off in a comparison to KVD?
No, this is interesting. This pulls us back to the last time that y'all were kind enough to have me on BTL, because we talked about the seismic change between a creel limit and this wide open MLF format. And I made the statement that it's a different sport on some level. And I stand by that. I still think that's correct. It's a different sport. So comparing the MLF format against we'll call it the conventional format because it's been around longer, is really difficult. It's really difficult. And I'm not sure that you can ever get to a scoring system or a rating system that I would be comfortable with. I think it's just...
You have to do finishes and titles.
Yeah.
Yeah, but finishes, here's my problem with finishes. And I'll use an extreme example. In 1978, Dave Glebe won a tournament on Okeechobee with 95 pounds. Second place had about 42.
I remember that one.
Yeah. Okay. I give Glebe first place. I give Roland Martin second place. Is that fair? It is not. So I don't like going by places in the standings because it doesn't reflect what an absolute total beatdown Dave Glebe gave the rest of that field.
Yeah, but didn't Roland give the rest of the field outside of Dave Glebe a beatdown by finishing second? And then you just put an asterisk for the biggest win next to it, and he still finished second and paid second. He got second place points regardless, and whether it's an ounce or 100 pounds, a W's a W, and a second place finish is a second place finish.
Well, it depends on the era, Matt, because you say you got second place points. In parts of the BASS era, you got pounds. And that wasn't a BASS tournament. That was an American bass fisherman tournament. But in parts of the modern tournament era, you got pounds, which was ridiculously insane, where you could definitely afford to have a bad tournament on the Ohio River. But if you had a bad tournament on Falcon, you were dead meat.
Yeah, my bass club back in Illinois, Associate Bass, still goes on Angler of the Year based on total weight.
Interesting.
Still based on pounds.
Wow.
They also, it's $20 for a tournament. So you could fish a pretty economical.
Yeah, $20. It's like a fruit jar thing.
While we're talking all about this is what grinds my gears.
Well, can I get to this question first?
Yeah,
I have the question.
It's all about this. He's been all around it. I just want him to put a bow on it.
Okay. He wants to know, does Jordan Lee age-wise figure into the conversation considering the major wins that he has?
Yeah, if I was going to add an angler to this mix, I thought about that. Unfortunately, it was just quite an undertaking to do what little bit I was able to do, just comparing Van Dam and Wheeler. But I wanted to add Jordan Lee. I wanted to add Bill Dance. I wanted to add Roland Martin. The problem with adding Bill and Roland was professional fishing didn't really start until they were almost 30. But Bill would have had about as many wins by the age of 30 as Wheeler, despite the fact that he only had 2 years to get him in. And Roland basically didn't have any. Jordan Lee is definitely the third guy you'd like to consider here. Jordan is 9 months younger than Jacob Wheeler and has accomplished so much. He's got 2 major wins in the classics, and he's got a couple of MLF wins. He's also got some strong performances in the AOY race. I don't think Jordan's numbers in terms of percentile finish are going to be as strong as Van Dam or Wheeler, but that's just me going off the top of my head and personal recollection. I haven't crunched those numbers, but what Jordan has done in major championships is wildly impressive.
What sticks out to me over this whole conversation? 2 AOYs before 30.
Yeah, 100%.
That right now is the ed. I mean, that's it. 2 of them before 30.
Yeah.
There's not very many that have 2. He's got 2 before 30, and even though he didn't have a classic before 30, correct? Or a major championship before 30, those 2 Angler of the Years hold immense amount of weight.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I was going with the Roland Rick debate. When the Greatest Angler debate happened in 2005, and Rick Clunn won in a landslide over Roland Martin, it kind of showed those of us in the media that the industry is a lot more interested in the classic than they were in AOY, because Rick had 4 classic championships, but Roland had 9 AOYs. Kevin has his 2 AOYs by 30, but Wheeler's got 7 wins, and Wheeler's got a major win with the Wood Cup. And how do you balance that out? A lot of it is kind of subjective.
All right, Matt, what's grinding?
Oh, no. I just want to know, how do you, in your opinion, moving forward, as a historian, you talked about trying to put things into context. I talk a lot about this with statistics. You have things at Bass now where every angler is getting paid $2,500 for a tournament on a $5,000 entry fee. So an angler who finishes dead last is still going to show that he earned whatever, $20-something thousand over the course of that year. So you look at you're like, wow, man, he's earned $50,000 even though he's finished last every time. You've got the whole thing that's happening with MLF. You've got a lot smaller fields on the Elite Series. So suddenly a top 50 finish out of what used to be 108 boats is now a bottom 2/3 finish for the last couple of years out of 75 or 80 boats. You have crazy fields over at FLW where you have anywhere from 125 to 200 anglers, some of which are only fishing 3 events in it, some of which are competing for Anglers of the Year. How do you put this in historical context? A run of what Wheeler's done in a Toyota Series and a FLW Super, as opposed to what Edwin did in Redcrest in the year that he had, as opposed to what an Elite Series angler, what a Jamie Hartman did with 6 top 10s. And is there any way to historically compare these, so looking back on it, we can say that was really impressive, that was really impressive, that looked impressive, but in context wasn't as impressive as we thought?
Yeah, those are all really tough questions, Matt. First of all, though, you started talking about money, and money. Although I was keeping track a little bit of the money earned by Van Dam and Wheeler to the age of 30, and just to let you know, Van Dam had earned about $340,000 in those first years of his career, whereas Wheeler has earned a little less than $3 million. So it was almost a 10-to-1 ratio. But you've got to throw out money. You cannot consider money in this part for a lot of reasons. One, the money has changed so dramatically through the years. I mean, a guy can win if a guy wins an Elite Series tournament now, he's won more money than Bill Dance won in his entire career in one event. That does not make him as good as Bill Dance for anybody who wants to use money as a factor. Because anybody who wants to use money as a factor is chasing the wrong trail here. But it becomes really problematic, I think, Matt, when you start talking about the MLF format with every fish counts versus the 5, 7, 10, 15 fish limit era. I think that I think there are a couple of things you do, and you judge people against their competition. You see how they were relative to average. And for a while when I was at Bass, I would judge guys how they were relative to average. I gave everybody a score for a few years. Sometimes I published those results on Bassmaster.com. Sometimes I just kept them for my own chuckles. But if an angler scored 1.0, he was totally average. Totally average. Everybody.
So out of a 100 boat field, he'd finish on average 50th place.
No, it wasn't about place.
Oh.
It was about weighing in an average bag per day.
Okay.
Okay? It was all about how much you weighed in. So it fluctuated by tournament. But yeah, typically you'd always be right around that 50th place finish if it was a 100 angler field. It was never a 100 angler field. It was always 93 or 116 or whatever. But yeah, you'd always be right around that middle. Guys who and that gave me a nice barometer. That gave me what I called a true zero, because it told me in a single number how much better or worse a guy was than average. And it told me some really interesting things. The first thing it told me that I thought was fascinating, and I'm a geek, so maybe it won't anybody else. But to be Angler of the Year, you had to be about 21% better than average. That's it. If you're about 20% better than average, you got a shot at Angler of the Year.
Huh.
It doesn't. The margin for error out there is pretty small, and that. Well, we'll go one of these days if you guys want to get into the deep weeds with me on this stuff. We'll talk about the role of luck in bass tournaments.
There's luck? You're telling me there's luck, Ken?
I'm telling you, it's a growing factor in bass tournaments.
Did you hear that, Matthew?
No, I told you I've changed my tune. I agree with you to some extent that that luck is a factor. I used to be an ardent opposition to you about that, but I 100% agree that there is.
All right.
Matt,
anyway,
you and I have walked the same path, Matt. When I was young and I was really getting into bass fishing, my dad would joke with me and say that my favorite anglers were just lucky. And my argument was, oh, there's no luck. These guys are just that good. And as I've gotten older, the old Mark Twain line was, I used to think my dad wasn't that smart, but as I've gotten older, I've gotten surprised at how smart he is. It's kind of been that way for me. Not only is luck a factor, luck is a growing factor in professional tournament fishing. It's a big deal. But
anyway, back to 20%.
Yeah.
Because I just want to gauge it. I want to gauge it to where that's what this whole question was about. How do we tell if this guy had a good year with all the changes that have gone past? And you're saying you have to basically compare it. You have to find a true zero in whatever they're fishing in, and then compare them to that true zero to see how statistically significant their achievement was that year.
Exactly. And I think that's the best way to do it. But the problem with that, the limitation in that system, is that I can really only compare anglers in the same circuit. Right. I can't compare an FLW angler against an Elite Series angler. I can't compare an MLF angler against somebody else. Couple of interesting things there. One is that the MLF system is really kind of pure competition, because on some level there's no need to ever take your foot off the gas. You know, your goal is just to keep catching them. As long as guys are putting in their full effort all day long and not letting up, not saying, hey, I'm going to hold these fish for tomorrow, then you're getting really pure competition. But the bigger problem is the disparity between the quality of leagues. You know, that's always, for the longest time, the debate was, which is the better league, Bass or FLW? And I always thought Bass had the advantage on that. Now the debate is probably which is the better league, MLF or the Elite Series. And I think MLF is clearly the stronger league. But when they're playing a different game, what do you do?
Yeah, so you're just saying there is no way to compare these things now. You have to basically put them in different categories, but there is a way in the context of that league under the rules that they're playing with to show how significant that achievement is. And that basically answers my question.
Yeah, I think you can do that with great specificity, and I think you can put a number on every angler. But the good news about not being able to compare, say, one league against another is it gives you guys tons of fodder that never goes away.
All right, you see the question up there, Ken. Is there a difference in the amount of luck between somebody winning a tournament and somebody's AOI standings?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the difference between winning a tournament is, 3 or 4 days. You can stumble upon a spot and be wildly off the charts lucky and win any tournament, including the Bassmaster Classic. I can think of a couple of instances where guys got lucky and won a Bassmaster Classic. Rick Clunn got lucky on the first day of the 77 Classic. It was foggy. He was heading toward a spot where he had caught some fish in practice. Instead, he missed his spot by several hundred yards and catches the biggest fish of the tournament on one of his first casts, a 7-ounce largemouth that holds up his big fish. He puts in 19 pounds, 7 ounces for the day. It's almost enough to win without launching the rest of the tournament. Jordan Lee breaking down a couple of years ago, he caught a break there. It forced him to slow down and to find a way to catch the fish that he knew were there, but had struggled to catch before that. AOI, because there are so many more days of competition, levels out a lot of that luck, or should.
Yeah.
See, I disagree with that. See, I look at yes, I 100% disagree with the Jordan Lee deal. So Jordan Lee has something happen to him, an occurrence. Take out, this is a long show, but okay, I'll sound like a hippie here for a while. Take out connotation to things that happen. Connotation is emotion, right? Positive or negative. So it's just an occurrence. It just happens. His motor breaking down at that bridge is something that happened. It's not good. It's not bad. It's something that happened. just like something happened to everything else. So if you take out, oh, that's bad luck that his motor broke down, but then good luck that it broke down in a great spot, right? That's what everyone's saying, right? So you're applying a negative connotation to the breakdown of the motor, a good connotation to the fact that where it broke down. Lucky, bad luck, and good luck. Take luck completely out of it. It's an occurrence. Then it comes down to the skill of him to react to that occurrence. There is no luck. There is no good or bad. So his reaction to that occurrence is get the motor fixed, go under the bridge and go to another area. Trolling motor half a mile up. Call maintenance. Have an emotional reaction. Don't fish at all. Wait till the motor gets fixed. His next reaction then, which wasn't luck, which was skill, was to assess the situation, realize where he was, what he had gained based on practice, and put himself in the best position to succeed, which is skill. Because if 100 guys break down in that exact situation, how many of those guys end up with a round rubber mop jig on a spot, catching all of those fish? I would venture to say maybe 4 or 5 of them. Jordan Lee happened to be one of those because of the homework, the skill, the realization of what he learned at Guntersville with Shell Offshore, understanding how the fish were set up on Conroe that time of the year, the practice that he'd put in to know that spot was there, and then the wherewithal to keep it all together. Those things are not luck. Those are all skill that are a result of a situation that happened.
That's very well said, but I'm going to tell you, dude, the luck part is where he broke down. What if he broke down up in the trees where you were when you were fishing on Conroe and had no opportunity to do what he did?
Do you not think that there were 5-pounders in those trees? That it could have been. I'm saying.
But that totally deviated from what his initial plan was due to the fact that his motor broke.
And it was the skill that was allowing him to stay with it and figure out a new game plan.
Not disagreeing with that, but he wasn't planning on fishing that area at all, Matt.
Right.
At all.
Was it fortunate? You could say it was fortunate, but I really hesitate to use the word luck. I use the word luck more like a Randall Tharp situation on Guntersville. Let's say that was an 8, or let's use Hank Cherry 2013 Classic. Grand Lake, he has that fish. Let's say it was a fish that would have allowed him to win that tournament. This is the luck part, in my opinion. Not the finding the spot, but you have controlled all of the non-controllable variables. You have your tackle, your hooks, everything is the best of your ability. You have not made a mistake. Fish eats your jerkbait. Sharp hooks, right rod, right line, right situation. You fight the fish to the best of your abilities. You make the best decisions. Fish comes off at the boat. It was bad luck that thing didn't suck that mega bass in the back of its throat and then it slashed at it and hooked it on the outside of the mouth. In that instance. Now you could say, hey, maybe he should have realized he caught his last 2 fish on the back treble hook, so he needed to change to a brighter bait and the fish would have eaten it better, so that's why he lost it. That's what I'm saying. You can always rationalize luck. But yeah, that's what I consider bad luck. I consider it bad luck that fish came off even though he did everything he could have.
All right, Ken, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that Matt is playing with the dictionary awfully hard here.
Yes.
What do you mean?
I think he's using the word occurrence when, Mark, you and I would use the word luck.
Correct.
I don't think that that's a fair substitute. I think that luck is a more precise word here. Luck is the accidental way things happen. And what happened to Jordan that day was his boat broke down. Maybe it broke down through his own fault. Maybe he didn't take proper care of his outboard or something. I don't know. But his boat broke down, that was luck. Where it broke down was luck. The fact that he made the most of the opportunity he was left with was his skill as an absolutely superior angler. He is a fantastic angler. He made the most of it. He turned what we would have thought was bad luck into a very fortunate situation. But was it luck? Absolutely.
Okay.
If you want to replace the word luck with occurrence, all right.
I can roll with that. It was lucky that he broke down there, but it was not lucky that he won the tournament. Will you agree with that?
We're not saying that.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that.
I think everybody here agrees Jordan Lee is a fantastic fisherman.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the most talented fishermen on the planet. But he caught a break there. He caught a break.
Yeah.
I don't think you can win a tournament by getting lucky. That's all I'm saying.
Are you kidding me?
I don't think you can't just say a guy got lucky to win the tournament. Like, okay, Chad Griffin.
Whoa. Time out. What about Takahiro catching that fish on his last cast?
No, he was in that area throwing that bait for a reason. He had all his stuff dialed in. He was there. Something told him to be there. And it doesn't matter whether it's the first cast, the middle cast, or the last cast.
Okay. All right.
In that case, any fish on your last cast is a lucky fish. So then if you take context out of it, then what's the difference between your last cast, your 50th cast, your 387th cast? It doesn't matter. So how come then every fish isn't lucky? It's just lucky because it happened to be the last cast. That's the only reason why you're calling it lucky.
Correct.
That cast could have happened an hour and a half earlier, and everybody would say, "Oh,
but it
crankbait master Takahiro Mori at the right."
It didn't.
So that doesn't mean it's lucky just because it happened on the last one.
Okay, historian, you got anything else on luck?
my brain is fried now.
Am I out in left field on this one?
Woo! Yeah.
I think you're chasing a dictionary all around the room here to find a way to say something other than luck.
Yeah.
Lenny just had an interesting post up there. I think he was quoting Takahiro. I've decided that no Major League Fishing event is concluded until Takahiro says, "I knew it."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've had that argument for 15 years, Ken. We've had this argument about luck and everything for 15 years. And what's funny is somebody threw a post out there, ask Matt the same question in 15 years and see what happens.
I can't tell you, one of the things I really miss about not being out there covering events is getting to run into you guys. Some of my most fun times have been running into you guys on the road at events and stuff. And for the folks listening and watching, you should know that Mark likes to come up to guys, especially me apparently, assuming I have a different opinion than him. He just assumes there's going to be an argument. And he'll say something like, well, Kenny, I know you're not going to agree with this, but this is the way it is, and A, B, C, D. And I'm saying, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. And Matt will come up to you with some idea that's really interesting and off the wall, or some different way to think about it, and he's really passionate about it and fun. And I'll never forget one conversation we had at Toledo Bend about 2014 about a certain angler who was going to be bigger and better than KVD.
Jason? He's still got time. He does.
Mark, that was my argument to Matt at the time. I said, dude, he's almost 40. He doesn't have time.
Jason doesn't age. He's still got time. He'll just have a little rough stretch. Let me put a bow on this. I think okay, having fished 2 divisions of the coast, is investing a lot into the Bassmaster Opens this year, time on the water, money, emotional investment in it. As an angler, it's hard for me to accept that after all this time, emotional, and monetary investment, that there's a good portion of success that comes down to luck. Part of you doesn't want to think that. It wants you to think you can eliminate that through hard work and decision making, as opposed to part of your success is going to be based on luck. But it's just like entering the main event in poker. You can put yourself in the best situation, but there is still an element of luck as to the card that comes on the river. And you just have to live with that and move on with it instead of try to rationalize with it.
Well, that's really interesting, because I know, Mark's an outstanding poker player, and I know Mark has an interesting World Series of Poker main event history. But another guy who has a great poker history in the world of bass fishing is Rick Clunt. And Rick once told me, he said, I think I have reduced the luck factor in my poker game to about where it is in bass fishing. So even Rick acknowledges the role that happenstance and luck have in the game, both games.
It's good stuff.
All right, great stuff. Good conversation there. All right, Gabe wants to know, what's your opinion on the YouTube craze?
Gabe, I'm not sure I understand your question. Guys, do you know what he's?
It just the element of so many people that are not tournament anglers that are having very large amounts of viewership and success, and they're not really associated with anything.
Gabe, I'll tell you what they're doing that is so smart, at least in my opinion. What they're doing is they're making fishing accessible. They're doing the thing that the major tournament organizations have failed to do over the last 30 or 35 years. They're firing up their GoPro or whatever. They're hopping in their car with 1 or 2 rods and reels. They're driving down to the local municipal lake or a farm pond, and they're making it accessible. They are not picking up their mega bass rods and reels. They are not hopping in their $90,000 boat. They are not looking at their $20,000 worth of electronics before they catch a bass. They are making it look accessible. They are making it look fun. And that's what the sport needs. Those people are probably growing the sport more than the major tournament organizations are right now. Now, those people are also kind of a weird outlier. I'm ranting now. Guys, stop me if I need to be stopped. Those guys are also kind of a weird outlier. They're what I call binary famous. They are binary famous. If you look at, let's look at LeBron James, for example. If you were to categorize everybody in the U.S. based upon their awareness and fanaticism toward LeBron James, the zeros would be the people who have never heard of him. The tens would be the people who are at that moment wearing a Los Angeles Lakers jersey number 23, okay? That's the range. 0, never heard of him. 10, avid fans. Follow him on Twitter. Look for him every chance they get. There's a wide range of these people, and most of these people are in that 3, 4, 5, 6 range, okay? Millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of people know LeBron James, and most of them are right in the middle. Now let's take a look at the YouTube anglers, whether we're talking about the Googans or whoever. If you go on that same 0 to 10 thing, the 10s are the people who are subscribing to their channel and watching every video. Everybody else is a 0. Everybody else is a 0. That's a wild kind of fame that we only have now because of social media and digital media. That's not to take anything away from the Googans or these YouTube people. I love that they're making fishing accessible, but their impact, their influence, their recognition level is really finite.
You know, Ken, I was talking to somebody in the media realm for bass fishing, and they made the comment
right there, Mark. What are you doing?
Well, you know, there's not too many of us that are legit. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, more than legit. You are the king, all right, when it comes to so much history of this game and everything else. Anyway, he said, you know what? He goes, do you remember the Brady Bunch? Do you remember the Hansons? Eventually, they get older. And when they get to that certain age, they became irrelevant. And with the development of so many young personalities on YouTube, I'm really curious as to what happens on down the road when they do become a little bit more, I'm not saying they're immature, I'm saying mature as they get older and they have responsibilities such as they want to get married, they want to, have families, they want to, do whatever they do. What's going to happen to that brand? What's going to happen to the relevancy as these individuals begin to age?
That's a great point and a great question. I think that if the primary purpose of these various guys is entertainment, they're going to fail. They're going to fail because their audience will stop finding them a big enough diversion to continue to follow them. They'll get involved with jobs, they'll get involved with relationships, they'll get involved with things like that, and they'll fall away from that form of entertainment. But if these guys can transition, and thus far, we're not seeing it, But if they can transition into education, like my friend Gene, the fluke master, if they can transition to education, they have a chance to keep that audience. The fluke master, Gene, he's done a fabulous job of maintaining and growing his audience for more than a decade because he's teaching. People recognize he's a good teacher, that he has something to offer, and they follow him because of that. He is timeless in that sense. He doesn't have to worry about his audience aging because his audience will continue to be out there. It'll be anybody who wants to learn how to catch another bass.
Yeah.
I mean, is that not relevant with every industry too? I mean, you take a Disney child star on that channel and you look at the ones who were on the show for 3 or 4 years, and then the people who grew up with them and they didn't do anything, and now they're struggling actors, whereas some of them are household names because they changed, developed different skills and grew with it. And
100%,
now,
man.
you know, I mean, it's the same thing that you can apply that to any aspect or any segment of a niche sport.
No, but when you
activity.
But when you look at it from a tournament perspective, if you have somebody that comes in young,
right,
their dynamic doesn't change that much.
Right.
All right, and forgive me off the top of my head. Come on, help me out here.
Yeah,
Matt.
but in the tournaments, they're achievement and competition based, as opposed to the YouTube, which Ken pointed out is entertainment based.
I agree.
Right.
I agree. But there's still an entertaining factor with the guys that are tournament fishing. You know, Bradley Waugh. I cannot, Roy, I call him Waugh. I still, every time I look at him, be it in person.
He's still 18.
He's still 18. I can't get that out of my brain. And the dude's like a full-grown adult.
Like 30.
Yeah, he's like 30 years old, Ken. I cannot help that because I saw that kid at 18, but the dynamic of what he does has not changed over that period.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. And I think that I think if we're talking about anglers at that level of Bradley Roy, who are top pros, they have to break through against their own peers. And I have urged pros for years and years now that they need to find a way to make their sport accessible. They need to find a way to draw an audience in without stepping in that $90,000 boat, wearing that tournament jersey and using all the sophisticated equipment.
Yeah.
And if they can do that, and if they can teach, and if they can also have a little bit of success behind them to continue to spur a new audience to locate them online, then they really should do very well. But I cannot seem to convince any pros that my perspective has merit.
All right, Matt, shoot, we've went 2 hours, dude. We haven't done a 2-hour show in years.
No.
That's how good you are, Ken.
Oh no. I just try to keep you two separate. So
we agree on a bunch of stuff now.
Yeah. We haven't had a knockdown drag out in a long time.
No.
All right. Final thoughts, final questions, Matthew, for Kenny.
Man, we covered everything I wanted to talk about. We really did.
Yeah.
We got way more in depth on stuff than I even thought we would. I mean, what people don't realize who are watching this show is this exact conversation that took place on BTL would take place at a dinner or a lunch table or in a hallway or at a media room at a Bassmaster Elite Series event for half an hour, for 45 minutes. Literally exactly what we said. Like, this was a behind-the-scenes talk.
It was.
Stuff like that goes down. Well, really between Ken Duke and whoever he's talking to.
Well, Matt, with one specific difference, at some point Mark would have to get up and flail his arms around.
I'm telling you, he's a reformed. Probably I'd give him 3 years, two and a half, 3 years.
I've mellowed a little bit.
Definitely mellowed out.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, there would be just a couple minor flails.
Well, I love you guys. Don't change too much now.
Yeah. All right. My final question, Ken, and obviously we have no idea, but if you had to have a vision, in your opinion, what do you think 2021 is going to look like from a bass fishing perspective?
Well, I see no reason to believe that the two major players, MLFLW and BASS, won't still be in the mix if you're talking about at the highest level of competition. Yeah. I think that they'll be a year closer to one of them being out of business. I believe that that BASS will probably be sold within 2 or 3 years, so that might not happen in 2021. I believe that the tackle industry, I'm not sure where that's going to go right now, but I will say that terminal tackle, baits, smaller ticket items are going to be strong. If the economy recovers as quickly as I hope it will, and as I really tend to think it will, then bigger ticket items like fancy rods and reels, boats and motors will continue to do well. Hopefully, we're going to grow the sport. There are more people fishing this year because of COVID-19 than in the past several years. That's a good sign. Of course, the question is, can we keep them? That is always a struggle, and I mean a struggle. If we can keep them, then that obviously bodes well for the sport. But most of the ones who are getting into the sport kind of fresh are not necessarily bass fishing. Those people are getting into the panfish, maybe the catfish kind of thing, and we just need to keep them. We need to show them the way of bass fishing. But I think that I think there's a lot to look forward to. It's going to be exciting. There are going to be some dumpster fires out there too.
All right, man. One more time, the dates of the virtual ICAST.
July 13 through 17.
All right. There you have it, folks. Ken, dude, you rock. Can't thank you enough. Just a great, great show. I know we went super long, and I appreciate you going 2 hours.
Hey, guys, thank you for having. Nobody listens to me for 2 hours.
If you want more perspective on fishing tackle retailer, there's a number of, it's a lot of info of what's going on, but there's also some like editorial comments and articles that you write on what you observe and stuff. You can click on Ken's lovely picture at the bottom there. It'll pull up all of the articles that he's written. And there's a lot of very interesting stuff industry related in there.
All right, man. You're the best, Ken. What I'd like to do, I'd like to have you on after this virtual ICAST where you can kind of assess it and give some feedback to the fans on how it went and go from there, man.
Hey, guys, anytime I can be on BTL, that's a good day for me. I'm a huge fan of the show, a huge fan of you guys. As you know, I am lucky to consider you both friends.
All right. Very cool, man. Be safe. Have a safe 4th of July.
Y'all too. Take care.
All right. See ya. All right. There you have it. Ken Duke. Wow. That was really, really good, man. Every time he's on, he is just a very unique individual when it comes to the history of this game. I don't think anybody out there knows more than Ken. And the job that he has in this industry is the perfect job for him. It really is.
Yeah, it is. And he's done it. I didn't get too far off base there, did I? Did I say a bunch of crazy stuff? When
it was well said. I told you it was very well said. And it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, that's all. That's all I wanted to see. I just didn't want you to get off and be like, what the hell are you talking about?
It was very well put. It's just Ken and I both agree that luck was a factor.
Mm-hmm. And
Simple
I'm
as that.
Changing a little bit of it. It's just the portion of luck that was a factor. But yeah, I really enjoyed talking to him and what he has amassed over the years. I hope someday will be fully appreciated by the majority of people who call themselves bass fishing fans.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're not familiar, if you're watching this show and you're not familiar with Ken, you need to become familiar with Ken Duke because he is the man.
Bass fishing historian.
Yeah. Nobody else even comes close.
Let's compare it. Ken Rosendahl of baseball.
Yeah.
Who's the NFL stats guy? Is there one?
John Clayton?
Yeah, he's the John Clayton.
Yeah.
100%. Minus the rock music in his mom's basement.
It's funny seeing these guys doing shows from their house and stuff. And
you remember that This Is Sports Center.
Stuff.
Yeah, he's in the basement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Man, what a great show. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out for over 2 hours. And, afternoon show. Yeah, I like to get it out there as quickly as possible on the replay. So we'll do that. And then next week, schedule will be out there on basshome.com on Sunday. 4th of July, man. You know what I call the 4th of July at the lake? Amateur hour.
Oh, yeah.
So this is what I want to do. If you do go to the lake, if anybody can capture any video that you would like to share on BTL the following week of something that might be, let's just say, entertaining to Matt and myself and the fans, please email it to me, mark@basshome.com, and we will air it on the show. All right, another thing we're going to try next week, with this new software, it's pretty cool. We're going to try doing it for the first time next week. Whatever guest that we have on, folks, get either your cell phones ready or get your laptops ready or get your computers ready to where you have audio and video, because you are going to be able to be invited and actually ask our guests the question directly.
Live, where everyone can see you on video.
Yeah, how about that?
That's cool.
That's cool. But one thing, you got to make sure you got a good internet connection. I don't know if you watched, what was the show we did Monday? The
Wheeler Reyes?
No. Oh, Jason Reyes. His internet connection was a little choppy.
It's still good.
And then Jacob's connection was really good. So you have to make sure that you have a really good internet connection. But this will be a first where you can actually get an invite from me. I send you a link. All you do is click on the link, and it throws you in the queue, and you can ask our guest a question directly. As always, if you have anything out there that you're wanting to sell, I'm still getting emails, and I'm trying to get this show lined up. So if there's anything out there that you are wanting to sell, just shoot me an email, mark@basszone.com. And this includes businesses too. All right. If you're a small tackle store and you want to showcase your tackle store, send me an email. We want to showcase your small little tackle store. All right. Sound good, Matt?
Sounds great.
All right. What are you doing on the 4th?
Have not thought that far ahead, Mark.
It's not that far away.
I know. Today is the 1st. It's Canada Day. You know what else today is?
What's that?
It's my mom's 73rd birthday.
Wow. What'd you get her?
I called her and talked to her for 30 minutes. She's in Ohio visiting family there.
All right. What do you get a mother for 73rd birthday? A book?
No, God, no. If you went to the house, she's got 8,000
flowers
of those.
Did you send flowers?
My dad's a master gardener. We literally have thousands of flowers in the yard. Every single type of flower.
Is he still doing the bee thing?
Yeah, we still have fresh honey.
We need to get some of that honey here in the studio.
Well, I can bring it. I got a bunch.
Yeah, bring some in.
Are you allowed to eat it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can dabble in it a little bit.
Heck yeah.
All right.
You know, honey never goes bad.
I had no idea.
Yeah, they found it in like Egyptian pharaohs' tombs and stuff, and once you warm it up, it turns back into honey. It's just as that. You spread it on your toast, your bagel.
I thought you said toes. I was like, geez, man, don't even go there.
Some people might be into that.
Don't go there. Happy birthday, Mrs. Pangrack. 73. I hope I get there.
You'll get there.
Maybe.
Especially since you mellowed out. You bought yourself an extra 10 years.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up. Be safe. Have a very, very safe 4th of July weekend. And if you have any videos, send them to me, mark@basszone.com. That's it. We're out of here.